Welcome everyone to the RTG Baseball Podcast, where we travel down the road to glory 1 week at a time. And to be quite honest, there's really only one major topic for this episode, so I'm going to kind of skip past the preamble. The baseball world was turned upside down, and no one understands what's happening. It's very apt that Andrew is here to try to make sense of this. What the heck happened, sir?
Life is meaningless and full of pain.
Oh dear.
Man.
Did you so Nate from our league
Yeah.
news, and I happened
I
to be in the app at the time.
yeah, so I was like I was in the middle of like getting dinner ready, getting ready for the week, and so I was like only glancing at the notifications from my phone. And our game had ended, Red Sox Yankees. It was a very nice sweep and, very excited for that. Had some golf on and I see this message pop up and I'm like, okay, here comes the like reverse trolling after the sweep. Ha ha ha. And then, looking a little closer and well, hold on, what? There's a link and this can't be real. You do some more digging, do a Google search, and it's like, what? What? I, it, I said this in the chat. This is the most shocking baseball trade of my lifetime, and I remember the Nomar trade. I mean, I was 5, so, of course or 7 something, so of course that was surprising, but, you're 7, it's your favorite player, you don't really understand the context of, leading up to that trade. But, looking back on it, it's like, okay, well, that you could see that coming. Obviously the Mookie trade, that's been, you know, covered ad nauseum, but, we were expecting that by the time it happened. This was the most out of the blue, unexpected baseball news. I mean, you know, and it's probably the most shocking Giants trade since Arson Judge.
No, yeah. The siege, a Giants Nation is they're also bamboozled, but like, okay,
in
they're
a,
like,
in a
oh,
better
great.
way.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh." To be clear, because 'cause we've struggled to actually say the words, Rafael Devers traded
For
from
those
the
living
Boston
under
Red
a rock.
Sox, indeed, to the San Francisco Giants for a former top prospect, Kyle Harrison, starting pitcher to relief pitcher, back to starting pitcher, back to relief pitcher, Jordan Hicks, a draft pick from last year, like, the person picked in the draft last year, and
To
then
quote Clayton
another
Kershaw,
prospect.
I don't know who he is. I don't care.
Yeah. Fair
He
fair
did
enough.
he
Well,
did say that in response to the trade in an interview uh, during Sunday Night Baseball. Yeah, I mean, there would be so much to unpack um, with this trade, and I think there's still a lot of uh, questions to be answered. But uh, what a botched situation. I mean, uh, how do you get here?
the quote I heard a lot, like, if you look at headlines at LB Network on their shows is, like, "Untenable situation," or, like, it got beyond the point of no return, unsalvageable, but, like, I don't know
But
what that means.
to me, that's that Rafael Devers was posting. It would be one thing if he wasn't performing, he wasn't putting up numbers. The first base, third base, DH aside, offensively, he was putting up numbers and he was a wildly positive impact on the team just in terms of wins. So if, you know, the relationship was untenable, like, are you telling me that, you know, Craig's or John Henry's feelings were hurt? Um, I don't think anyone is blameless in this situation, including Rafi. But I mean, communication wise, this organization is a disaster. I mean,
In all areas. Like, there's no possible explanation of this was the plan all along, and here are all the previous moves to prove that we were going this
no.
direction.
And
It
at the top, they have to be better. Rafi didn't. If Rafi was demanding a trade, well, Manny would demand a trade every week. But if he wasn't performing, then I'd say like, you know, that's pressing the issue. Like something needs to happen. But there's nothing saying like this needs to happen today. Nothing like in terms of on-field performance.
Yeah, like you said it. He's a top hitter in real life baseball, and by the way, fantasy number 6 of all hitters. Period. Right now, number
Yeah.
one third baseman. So he's been great with the supposed drama. I mean, I know it really looks like drama, and it probably is drama. But even if that's true, he's still amazing. Clearly,
Yeah.
your best
So
hitter.
that to me says that it's the ownership group and Craig Breslow that couldn't deal with the drama. I mean, you go back to the beginning of the offseason. Um, I'm sure Cora has some blame here too, because what I don't know is, at the start of the offseason, you hear Cora saying, beating the drum of we want to get Bregman, we need a big ready bat in the lineup. And, Cora saying like, oh, maybe we play second or something. Now, I don't know if that was Cora's idea all along. Um, but obviously, Bregman is signed, and then it turns to uh, Rafi, throw away your glove. You're not playing the field. You're DH only. Now, many would argue that, objectively, like that was the best arrangement of, you know, defenders and players on the team and all that jazz. But between, Cora advocating for signing Bregman and telling Rafi to throw away his glove, there was a communication breakdown. Uh, you know, Rafi finding out after they signed him that that's what they wanted to do. Was that Cora's plan? If so, that's a horrible way to communicate to your player. If that's Breslow's plan, was that communicated to Cora? And did he ask Cora to communicate that to Devers? If so, where was the breakdown there? Was it from Craig? Was it from Cora? Was it both? Uh, I,
But but it does seem like if it feels like someone should have been able to change positions, like between
sure.
Alex Bregman or Rafael Devers.
Well,
Like I'm
and that's
thinking,
that's why
like
Raffi takes some of the blame, and I don't think it's wrong that, like, you do what's best for the team, but I think it's mismanagement from the team in that you have to understand who your players are and that some of them might have egos and some of them might be divas. It sounds like this was a little bit of the case with Raffi. And so, you know, not having that open dialogue with him from the start and then being surprised that this is the outcome when you say, "Shut up, throw away your glove, you're doing this." Like, that's poor management.
I guess maybe
You
we
just
underestimate the the connotation of getting moved to permanent DH because there's so few permanent DHs now. Maybe it's
Well
like you're saying I can't play the field anymore? Like, what do you mean?
so there's that layer to it, there's word that he was also promised a certain amount of playing the field by Heim and then was told that was the previous administration. Fine, um, but then, fast forward during the season, Casas's leg is blown up and they need him to play the field. Well, if that's the case, then why did you tell him to throw out your glove? You had to know, especially with his injury and his like, if I'm a GM, and I'm looking at my team, one question I would have to ask myself is if any individual player goes down, what is the backup plan? Like, what is backup plan A? And then what is backup plan B? Because backup plan A might not be available. If the primary backup to Casas was Rafi Devers, then why did you tell him to throw away his glove?
Yeah, that's I was also I'm tracking what you're saying because like you could have said like, hey, you're our first go to when we need a fill in,
Yes,
but for
you're
now you're gonna be our
primary DH,
DH.
but you're gonna get some reps. And so take some grounders and do this. And that's the thing, he wasn't taking any grounders. They told him not to. So like
Yeah.
if if that was your plan all along, then telling him to throw away his glove doesn't make any sense. It's like
Well,
there's
it's like
no
they
overarching
overcorrected.
plan.
It's like they
Yeah,
overcorrected at the beginning, like, what'll finally make him agree to this, like, "Hey, your own just focus on DH, that's all you have to do," and and then he's like, "Alright, fine." Because wasn't there a thing in spring training where he also just, like, wasn't playing in games at all for
yeah,
a
he was
while?
just doing BP on the backfields or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Rafi handled this well at all. And a real team leader should just, especially after you've gotten paid, you know, do what's best for the team. But in many ways, that's also like if you are, whether it's the manager or front office or whatever, you know, it helps to communicate that this is what's best for the team.
I think that's the way more the manager. Like,
Yeah,
when I say things like, "The manager barely matters anymore," this is the one of the
I agree.
one things that are left for a
And
manager
then
to do.
where's that disconnect? Is that does Cora not believe that that was what's best for the team? In which case, like, that's, you know, pretty bad communication between him and the front office, but Cora's the one who was pushing for Bregman in the first place. So where was that? It's just so
None of that should lead to a salary dump. That, like,
no, yeah.
you could have the worst situation possible. In fact, it could be 100% on the player. But let's say clubhouse cancer, he's terrible. So then it's like, all right,
Well
if I have to trade him, I need to replace him. Then I need another hitter
and
who's
that's
just as good
the
then.
other thing, it's like, how many times do they overlook character flaws in player take Aroldis Chapman, you know, look at all his domestic incidents, but they don't care because he performs. So why does it matter with Rafi? Well, because maybe he hurt their feelings personally. Like that's are you going to be a mindless Wall Street manager and just worry about performance, or does character now matter? Which one is it,
It doesn't.
or is it?
It's but it's weird. I don't know if it's. I think your first thing is more right. Where like
Oh,
this player,
his feelings were hurt,
yeah,
either
like
Craig
that.
or Henry, which
I
is
think that's because
which
yeah,
makes this
because
somehow feel even worse than Mookie, because with Mookie, it was, uh, either he who knows? Either he didn't have any intentions of returning or, uh, they had no intentions of signing him for the price that he was going to ask. Whichever it was, it's like if you're just being a cheap bastard, then like I, strongly disagree with that if you're a billionaire, but like that is what it is. But this felt petty.
No, you're right, because with Mookie Betts, the what leads to a divorce here is he's not gonna be able to give us value anymore. In other words, which in this case is he's not gonna sign with
Mhm.
us. So, then, alright, we gotta do something about it. Rafael Devers,
Was signed
even
for
if you
9
hate him,
years.
is doing the thing. Like,
Exactly.
there's about to be drama probably, like, 3 weeks from now or so with, maybe 2 weeks, with Marcus Stroman, the Yankees, because Marcus Stroman, similar to Rafael Devers, said, "I'm a starter," because he didn't wanna be in the bullpen,
Mhm.
and they got injured, and then p our starters got injured anyway, then he got injured, now he's coming back, but there's actually not a spot for him, so it's gonna come to an impasse. But the only reason we would resort to trading him for nothing would be he's like, "I'm not getting on the mound."
Yeah.
In that case, then he's not helping us anymore. He's a no-show or hurting us, so we have to get rid of him. But if Stroman pitches 7 shutout innings, or no, from the if he's like is a ace closer, closes the game every single time, but after every save, he's like, "I disagree with this decision. I hate Brian Cashman. This isn't what I want." But he's getting saves? Well, then great. I mean, we're not gonna do anything about that. He's
Yeah.
doing the thing then.
No, and, you know, the other end of, a trade like this would be like the Nomar trade where, many have argued that it improved the team significantly and led to them winning the World Series. They got Orlando Cabrera, uh, very good major league caliber starting shortstop, Doug Minkiewicz, Gold Glove first baseman, and Nomar was more or less cooked by that point. So he was at the end of a contract, so they weren't planning on resigning him for what he wanted. So Heim might like to think that this is trading the big Boston star, but the situations could not be more different if you look at them more closely.
And also, I don't know if 24 hours has made the situation more clear, but people were disagreeing on whether they offered Devers to more teams than just the Giants, and whether, like, this has been in the works for weeks or if it just, like, happened over the weekend.
There I refuse to believe that this is the best they return they could have gotten. I I don't believe it, especially given the timing. There wasn't anything being like, "This has to happen right now." When's the deadline?
That'd be I think it's a little bit later than usual, like August 2nd.
MLB trade deadline. Um, July 31st, 6 PM.
Uh, Back to July 31st, okay.
So, a month and a half. Uh,
Like, if Craig Breslow got that offer last night and said, I'll think about it." Like, what consequence? Like, is there a chance? I guess, like, if the trade deadline was a week from now and you say, "Let me think about it," then, like, 5 days from now, I was like, alright, but now I'm gonna give you less," and then you're pressured because you only got 2 days left.
but here's
But
the thing. You have Rafi on a 9 years left on his deal. There you have the leverage. It's not like,
yeah,
"Oh, yeah, we've only got him
nobody
to the end of
should
the year."
think
Like,
yeah, nobody should think you want to trade him. Like, you lose the
yeah.
leverage when everyone knows you're trading him, but no one should have been like, "Oh, yeah, they have to trade him. They can't possibly keep him."
Well, and that's the thing. It's like even if it's like, okay, he's on the trade block, like the other team should not have the leverage here. Like there's nothing forcing your hand. He's putting up numbers, and we have every reason to believe that he's going to continue to do so, for the next several years. So there, I just cannot buy that angle, and I don't think anyone else is.
Funny enough, so after 24 hours, you made a comment in the chat, like and in the podcast that you've never seen a trade like this. So I tried to think about it, and really, uh, I came up with two examples. So I first was for Cisco Lindor because that's like franchise player being traded. But in the end, Lindor was almost at the end of that contract, and small market team too. So that's closer
Mhm.
to the Mookie Betts scenario. Not quite Mookie Betts because the Red Sox are a big market team, but
Yeah.
that's Lindor. And then the next thing I remember is like, oh yeah, that's our team. When we got Giancarlo Stanton, we traded for his 13-year contract and gave up like Starlin Castro and Jose Devers, which I think is part of the Devers family tree. I don't think that's a coincidence. Um, and some cash, and we got a little bit
But
of cash. Yeah.
even that, those trades, and I'll say again, my um, most shocking trade, um, those weren't those are big, but I was expecting Stan to move. The Red Sox had their eyes on him, and it was sort of like who's gonna get Stanton? Um, you
Well,
know,
it happened if you remember, like the Marlins had suddenly signed a bunch of people. Like they got Jose Reyes at one point.
mm,
They got yeah, a bunch of people. Then um Stanton was amazing and what's his face? Christian
Derek Jeter
Yelich
came in. Yep.
was amazing. Yeah, yeah, all those guys. And then that off season, suddenly it's like the Marlins are gonna trade
Fire
all their
sale.
people, and you're like, wait, what? And then they did. They traded all of them,
And
including
it didn't work.
no, I don't even know if they I don't know what they thought was gonna happen. They maybe he didn't think it was actually gonna work. He's just like, let me get rid of the money. But that's the only Stanton's the only because the big difference is locked up on a long-term contract already and yet traded anyway. That's the scenario. So Stanton's the only person I can think of. And even then, like the Marlins, even though Stanton was the NL MVP, like I doubt they finished anywhere close to the playoffs.
Yeah. The other thing too is, quote unquote salary dump. Uh, but if you look at other either primary or mostly DHs in the league, and their contracts, you look at Vladdy Jr. He might not be a DH now, but it's coming. And Juan Soto, he might not be a DH now, but it's coming. Not too dissimilar from Rafi. Those contracts are much bigger. And, yeah, you quote unquote unloaded all this money, but you're not going to get a big bet about as big as Rafi's for a price as good as you had. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, and your only hope. So now here we go. So now, fan perspective. Your only hope that this has any silver linings is that you bring in a starting pitcher because those values are different than comparing it direct to an offensive player. If you succeed at getting another ace along with Garrett Crochet, then you need to also have your young hitters turn out to be great. But if that also happens, you're looking good. But if you don't get that starting pitcher, or if like Rowan Anthony isn't amazing immediately and he's amazing like 3 years from now, then you're in a tough place. By the way, the Marlins finished in second place, but 20 games back in the NL East
Should
in 2017.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
just- so to put a kind of conclusion on this, wildest trade I think we've experienced, just because it shouldn't have been possible. There should not be part of the strategy. I haven't heard what the Red Sox have said about it yet, but
Yeah, I think
I
they're
I doubt
supposed to
they
have
can.
a Zoom meeting tonight. It was very cowardly in many ways. They didn't, you know deem it worthy enough to, have a press conference yesterday. They did it after the game. Everyone's on the plane, and they're like, "Oh, we'll talk about it the next day." 8 o'clock on Zoom or whatever. And then it's also a West Coast road trip they're going on. You know, so just hiding behind that. Eh, Speaking of the West Coast road trip, they'll be playing them on this weekend, so that'll suck.
Yeah, that's
Man.
definitely like a 3 for 10 for Devers, 2 home runs or 2 walks or
I
something.
I'm not a betting man, but for all the gamblers in our league, put everything you have on Devers hitting a home run this weekend. It's the most the baseball gods. I would never recommend betting on a player to hit a home run, but this is the most obvious of all time. It's gonna
It
happen.
yeah,
He's
is
gonna hit one into McCovey Cove.
can you think of anything happening this season that would fill the void left by Rafael Devers?
A World Series win.
World Series, alright, it'll take a World Series, and even then, Rafael Devers wasn't there to enjoy it, although at least he got his fun already, so that helps. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, even as a rival, like, I could tell this hurts, uh, but let it be clear, I'm very pleased I don't have to face Devers anymore, very
Well,
good, and it gives the Dodgers
that's
competition.
the other thing, like, he absolutely roasted you guys. Like, and he was the only guy on our team really that did that, I think Poppy and Manny, had their fair share of, you know, in the past, but, on today's team, it was Raffy, and he had Cole's number for sure.
Oh, yeah, I
And
mean, Garrett Cole's celebrating, honestly, everybody's celebrating. The only person not celebrating is Brian Cashman because he's like, "But I wanted Devers." What? Like a bunch I'm sure the other, like, big market GMs are upset if they were not, consulted
it's
to potentially make an offer.
it's just so dumb. It's so dumb. You didn't even the I think the impact might not necessarily be worse than the Mookie trade, but this feels
You have must-win games in Seattle now. If you lose, then you will endure a downward spiral of all the players being depressed,
they're
and then
gonna
the fans are
continue.
depressed, and
Well,
then
here's
the
what they're
man
gonna continue to do. They're gonna continue to do that, like, we're gonna try to buy and sell at the same time. We're gonna be cool like that. And they're not like every single move they've made in since the Mookie trade has felt like it was made totally independent of the move prior. Like there's no overarching strategy. It's like every single move is like, well, if your plan is to build for the future, this makes sense. But if your plan is to win now, then it doesn't make sense. And every single move like contradicts the plan of the previous move. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Now, I don't know how common this is because, of course, Cash has been here for 30 years,
it's
but this
insane.
seems like a possible result of GM turnover, like, very
Oh yeah.
quickly, the Dave Dombrowski and then
Well,
Time Bloom,
and
then
that doesn't
Fresno.
happen without John Henry seemingly not being able to make up his mind. Like immediately after 2018, the signs, Sale, Evaldi, all these guys to big contracts. And everyone's like, great. Like, yeah, because as everyone probably knows, Dombrowski's a spender. Um, they're like, great, the winning's going to continue. We're just going to keep on trucking. And then they're like, oh, we can't afford Mookie. And everyone's like, well, hold on. We just handed out all these contracts to Sale and everyone. Like, I would preferred, like, if we knew that like money was a problem, maybe we shouldn't have done those and then signed Mookie, but we didn't know that there was going to be this dramatic organizational shift. And every year it's like it shifts back and then it shifts forth. You sign Trevor Story, like, okay, are we spending? Oh no, we can't sign Xander. Oh, we're signing Bregman. Oh, we can't afford Raffy. Which one is it? If
It's
you're
like a
running
sh
a
it's like a shell game of, sleight of hand, like, "Look
Yeah.
at this while I get rid of that, and don't worry, I'm getting rid of this player, but it's all to keep this player," and then but again, once you sign him to the mega deal, you assume it's safe. Just because no
Oh,
one would want to trade, it just
true.
isn't feasible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it speaks to the fact that, uh, given the back of baseballs they got in return, like, Raffy's contract is not bad value. And, especially in this day and age, and, especially, a team like the Giants that's, struggled to sign big name, free agents, to get a, legitimate top 10 in the league bat with power in your lineup, this is the price you have to pay. A lot of people will look, oh, like, what is the optimal value? And, dollars per war. And, you know, that's great. But, I also believe once you reach a certain threshold, a certain tier, a certain caliber of player, you're you have no choice but to quote unquote overpay for that player.
Oh, yeah, it's like almost every free agent ends who gets many years ends up being overpaid, but the problem is if everyone's overpaid, then I can't you can't do anything about that. It's
No,
either
that's the
overpay
value.
somebody or get nobody.
Yeah.
And in fact, by that definition, I guess then they're not overpaid because that's market value. So it's just
Yeah.
do you want the player or not? We have to move on, but the crazy turnover, maybe last thing, would you prefer to bottom out at this point, or are you still like, "Give me the World Series"?
I don't know. I just here's what I want, Will. I want like a, a goddamn direction. Like I want them to pick a lane and stick to it. You know, this offseason they said we're gonna compete, and everyone's like, great, because we weren't the last 4 years. So now we're finally competing. Um, but this sort of flies in the face of that. So are you trying to compete or not? And
Okay.
enough of this middle ground, just pick
So
one.
you need not a combo buy sell in July. You need a
No, but that's
buy
what's gonna
or
happen.
sell.
That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna buy sell.
Well,
It's
uh,
worse.
uh, believe it or not, there's another uh, groundbreaking trade that happened. It's just that this overshadowed everything. I don't know if you're aware of this. Uh, so in
Something else happened?
yes, but only for us. So in Road to Glory baseball, we had a trade. So it's pretty rare. A lot of people
Oh,
are gun shy in the league, and I think it's appropriate when it happens to celebrate it and take a look. So this was a trade that happened at the over the weekend. And it was came to effect for this week that's happening now between Jamie and Mehtab. And Jamie is able to acquire the Cardinals closer, Ryan Helsley, and the young, hot upstart first baseman of the Athletics, Tyler Soderstrom. And he is trading Athletics closer, Mason Miller, to Mehtab. So this is a 2 for 1. This is a fantasy point filled trade because all of these players like are all like leaders in different ways. Um, before you react, so Tyler Soderstrom right now is the sixth highest scoring first baseman, and in case he's used at outfield, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, the 13th highest scoring outfielder. So he has been great suddenly. A 351 WOBA. He's doing very well. Meanwhile, with relievers, now relievers is tricky. There's just so many of them you could have on your team. Um, so I ended up using the export filter so I could look at all the relievers in the league at the same time into an Excel spreadsheet, and uh, essentially both Ryan Helsley and Mason Miller are kind of low on the rankings. It depends on when saves are available and when how many outings you have, and then there's a lot of sparps like relief pitchers that are actually starters. Uh, I can tell you, like on average, like a points per appearance, points per batters faced, Mason Miller is a good bit higher than Ryan Helsley. The exact rankings are a little hard. The like fantasy analysts rank Miller as the sixth um, best closer, I believe. I'll confirm that in a second. Yes, that's correct. And then Helsley, I have to expand it to show more people. I think he's gonna be like eighth or ninth. Uh, so yeah, a pretty a star filled trade. So what's your reaction immediately to that?
Yeah, I mean, this is,
Ninth, by the way. Ninth. The analysts rank Helsley as a ninth. So sixth and
yeah,
ninth
6th and ninth, and
relievers.
then
In actual points scored, it's that varies. Like I said, there's so many relievers, and some of them are starting pitchers slash relievers. So
yeah, I'm trying to
it's
figure out how on the website, it has either last 7 or projections, and what I want is the performance so far this year.
you need year to date YTD. So
Where
stats, and then in time frame YTD.
so I guess I'm on the player page, is that not what I should be on?
Oh, the player
Maybe
page.
that's,
That is
'cause I clicked there from the
stats.
transaction reports.
So it's stats, and then the first row is their 2025 season.
Uh,
There you have overview, news, game log, trends, stats.
I don't see that on this page.
Did you click on like
I
the
clicked,
name of the player?
yeah,
So if you click on the name of the player, then like it's their picture and their bio, and
yeah.
then
I see profile, last 5, situational, game log, news, eligibility, service time, career.
oh, did you click? You might have clicked one too many. Yeah, you're one too many. Although I see the page you're on. You need to
Okay, yeah, I can
just
see
click
it
on
if I
their
d click, yeah, that's annoying.
yeah.
They should have it in the main plate, because I did it so I could pull them all up at the same time rather than look at them one at a time.
Yep, that's
Um,
fine. If on the first page you were on, if you would hit career, you would see it
yeah, okay, so year
next to
to date,
service time.
433, and, 225, and then Mason
While
Miller.
you're pulling that up, and the initial reactions, usually you focus on the best player in the deal first. So there's
Sure.
three people in this deal. So the
Mason Miller being
so
the big name.
yeah, Mason Miller's the biggest name, but Mason Miller, he scored
What?
279 and a half points so far, whereas Tyler Soderstrom is much higher than that, which makes it, which if you're of course if you're a top hitter, then you're gonna have more points than a top reliever. So I understand Mason Miller's name you all know, but Tyler Soderstrom so far has been the best player out of those 3 guys by a lot.
Yeah, and Mason Miller has, last couple of weeks has struggled a little bit. Week 10 was good, but, 9.5, 5.5, -2. Very interesting. Relievers are so finicky. Yeah, if you can catch one on a hot streak, um, yeah, that could be good. Maybe that's what, Mehtab is hoping for. Um, but not a bad return for Coach Jamie.
Yeah, Ryan Helsley has been I can just tell you, Helsley's been disappointing this year in to be like,
In recent weeks,
he's not
especially.
he's not the number like, he's ranked as the number 7, like, he should be that, but he's nowhere close to that. But he is the closer of a competitive team. The Cardinals are
Mhm.
right at 500. I expect them to be the competitive for the rest of the year unless they sell. But even then, they probably would then sell him, so that's okay. And his competition is the NL Central, which should be good if you're facing the NL Central hitters. But the fact remains, he has not really been producing like a top closer right now. And Mason Miller, uh, is doing more of that. The only danger, of course, is Mason Miller is he's on a team that's not good. So
For
will
now.
for now, will they actually if they continue to be bad, they actually might not trade. He has a lot of service time, or not, or no, he doesn't have a lot of service time. As in, like he's just a lot of years of
Yeah.
control. The other thing is Matab. He has Vlad Guerrero, so he's not putting anyone at first base, and he has Shohei Ohtani, the batter, so he's not putting anyone at utility. So that means that Soderstrom was in his outfield slot. So really, you have to decide. He has another young athletics hitter, Lawrence Butler. Did he prefer Lawrence Butler to be his third outfield, or did he want Tyler Soderstrom to be his third outfielder? Uh, their points are pretty close. Butler with 431 points right now, and Soderstrom with 433.5 points. Uh, this is very interesting. This is like so by total fantasy points, the edge is for Jamie, but in terms of either Butler or Soderstrom has been sitting on the bench all these weeks for Matata. And at some point, he's just like, I don't want to see his face on my bench anymore. I want
Hmm.
to actually make something of him.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like it just might be an old-fashioned, baseball trade,
Yeah.
as they say.
On Jamie's side, it's a lot more clear cut because he just didn't have a first baseman he believed
Yeah.
in.
Soderstrom slotted right in there.
Yeah, his choices were Salvi or Wilson Contreras. Um, Wilson Contreras has been good, but he's catcher eligible, so he'd prefer to use Contreras at catcher, and then Salvi has not been very good. And I guess the only thing is, w- if you're gonna trade Miller, maybe there were people you were more interested in getting because first base is a pretty open position in terms of like what's on the free agency on the waiver wire.
Yeah. I mean, I do wonder if it could be a trend, just, relief pitching in general is so finicky and, maybe, coaches are more, willing to part with them because of that, versus a, starting pitcher, even a position player.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing, so like the best relievers, or at least the m- the best relievers that have the most notoriety, like they're big names, will probably be able to keep their closing role all year long, which you like. Because if you pick up a hot reliever that like 2 months from now they could have either not got hot anymore or they lost a closer role.
Mhm.
So for longevity, but the thing is that usually Helsley and Miller are both reliable top closers.
That's the thing
So
though, right? Is like, I had, Emmanuel Clase and, you know, prior seasons and, last year he was elite until the wheels kind of fell off at the end and, uh, I could be wrong here, but I don't think he's had a great season so far. Um, so it can just kind of come out of nowhere.
he has, well, in fantasy points at least he hasn't, and actually even in real life, it's a 3.94 ERA, 1.45 FIP. Oh, not FIP, WHIP.
With yeah,
Yeah. Um, Last year, uh, Helsley was the number 2 overall relief pitcher, and Mason Miller actually finished well below that. This is about 15th, but there might be like, I don't know if he got injured at some point last year. 65 innings from Miller and 66 innings. I mean, that's close. Interesting. Um, I can tell you now though, if the Athletics do trade Mason Miller, or if the Athletics suddenly are good, this is gonna be a, a good trade. Like a above net neutral for Matop. Like right now, I think it's gonna feel neutral because Soderstrom wasn't playing for him anyway, and he had Helsley, so he replaced one closer with another closer. But if Miller does get those extra save opportunities, this should look good for Matop. And I think no matter what, yeah, it should look good for Jamie. Unless, of course, I mean, Soderstrom's never done this before. So Soderstrom could just not hit anymore.
I
And that
think
would be unfortunate.
either way, this trade looks to make a lot more sense than the Rafi Devers trade.
Uh, that's our bar. Is a Devers trade? Is it better than a Devers trade? Yes. Okay, we got something.
Do you immediately see it and just your brain short circuits? No? Okay. That's a better trade.
Agreed. Uh, so kudos to Jamie and kudos to Matab for being the first brave souls to get active in the trade market. We shall see uh if any other brave souls come forward. I know I saw Eric updated his trade block last month, I think. So you would think he's willing to yeah, we'll see. Now last week in the league we had some other happenings. Uh we had another victim of Team Legit Queen Stays Queen as she stuns the world, upsetting the number 1 team in the league, Nick, for her 3rd win, which means that right now, we're at your guess, if you recall. I believe you guessed 3 wins. So show is out,
Yeah.
and, uh, if she goes defeated the rest of the season, then you'll be proven correct.
Yeah, I don't looking at it right now, this is with Matt Chapman slotted in at third and a uh an abysmal performance by Bailey Ober where he
Yeah,
gave up
7 earned
7
runs, not
earned,
gonna do it. Not gonna do it. 4 home runs allowed. Yep,
4 home
that's,
runs,
mm,
-34.5 points. Yep, still came up with the win. Cole Reagan's uh so he landed on the IL for Coach Nick. So that what day was that? So this is June 12th. So that was mid matchup.
yep.
Can't really avoid that. Um,
Well, and also he has, someone who's usually leading his team in points, Chris Bubick, the Sparp, had an off game against us.
mm,
Uh, and so actually, is that true? Was it against us? Yes, it was against us. So that hurt because he's going with the Sparp. He's not relying on
yeah,
relievers. And I usually that and Bubick has been excellent, so that has been working out all year for him. But this is the 1 week, of course, it does not work out. Rodon, of course, had the not great start, so that hurt him. Rodon has been great for him. Even Garrett Crochet's awesome performance wasn't enough. uh, on Rachel's side, the 2-start week from Yusei Kikuchi also was excellent. 86 points between those 2 starts. That definitely helps.
Yeah.
On Rachel's team, there's a smattering of talent here. Like, look, it is what it is. She's just waiting. She's waiting out people who are injured, just taking the zeros. A bizarre strategy, but that's what's happening. When when Matt Chapman,
Strategy is one word for it.
but when Matt Chapman does come back, second, third, and short of Cattell, Marte, Chapman, and Correa feels strong, especially if Correa picks it up. He has not been impressive this year yet. And then, um, their starters are mostly mid, but eventually they all had to get 2 starts, and none of them should be awful, except Bailey Ober, who was just he was awful. Um, and especially if her third closer, Edwin Nuseta, if the Rays keep it together, he will get her a lot of points. But so far, the Rays have been so up and down that he hasn't been able to get like his holds and saves.
I thought Charlie Morton was cooked.
He just
I thought he was done for, but and don't get me wrong, he's um still put up some stinkers, but 42, 46, 25, 35. These are very
well, yeah. Yeah, I
I
like
don't
I
I
like
don't know.
looking at instead of even though like for hitters, you should look at trends because that's just like points per week. But then for pitchers, you hit game log and then you see like all their starts
Yeah,
in a row, which is nice. I just expect Charlie Morton to be traded to the Braves at the trade deadline again and be good for the Braves again. That's my expectation. As for Nick, I think he's very comfortable and just chalking it up to a fluke. But it does hurt to lose to the worst team in the league,
yes,
as we both know. So we just gotta swallow it and keep on rolling.
indeed.
In a nail biter, it was you and Nate on the final day on Sunday. You were called out by your opponent on Sunday to pay special attention to your relief pitcher, and
Yeah,
if he had done something useful, you would have likely won this matchup.
yeah, yeah,
Unfortunately, he showed up one time this entire week, and that one time was in Colorado, and he allowed runs.
yeah. Well, and really, the problem was the oops, I'm on the wrong game
Are you
here.
gonna talk about Bryce Miller?
Yeah. So, well, actually, no. Well, yeah, Bryce Miller. Just another midweek uh injury. I have, you know, show likes to tell everyone all about how his players are injured, but I think Scott's types of the injury bug has really struck this season. Uh, but even taking out Bryce Miller, Flaherty and Anderson both putting up negative points, I think is what really sunk me.
Yeah, I think. Oh, by the way, my God, 106 points for Acuna. Jeez.
He's back.
Well, all right then.
That's that he brought me back into it, and then Flaherty and Anderson had other plans.
They're like, whoa there. Who do you think you are?
Let's keep you at the bottom of the league.
Uh, do you remember when you drafted Ronald Acuna? I have it pulled up right
Um,
now.
I don't remember.
You drafted him
Round 35.
round 6.
Or Lamb Valley
You
5, so I've drafted him in round 6.
Yes, so you drafted him in that round. Correa was picked, then Bryce Harper was picked, who was injured. Oh, actually, that Bryce Harper was kept. then Blake Snell was picked, and then Acuna was picked. So you picked Acuna over William Contreras. Oh, no, sorry, he's a keeper as well. You picked him over Teoscar Hernandez, Pablo Lopez, Brian Wu, Willie Adames. Uh, if he's gonna do 100 points now that he's back every week, this is gonna work out real well for you.
I was gonna say, I don't hate that, looking back on that.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. It's so we'll see where you finish this year. So you accepted not a round 6 pick being useless to you for the first 10 matchups, basically. I don't know exactly when he came back. 6, 7 matchups. So you accepted that in exchange for having him now. So we'll see. Like, might have had a better record right now if you had picked a not injured player. Will you be able to make up the ground as we go forward? We shall see. Or, I mean, look, I mean, this would be why if we're talking about Devers trades with a round value of 5, Acuna would be quite a valuable commodity
Hmm,
on the trade block. So, just
he
a
would.
little thing to think about there. So at close of the week, our standings sit at now it's a three-way tie for first. And when you sort that by points for, it's Show, Nick, and Nate all with 9 wins. My team with 8 wins. Mehtab has climbed back to 500 in 5th place, along with Eric, who's also at 500. And then 7th right now is a tie between Brian, Jamie, and Phil, all at 5 and 7. Brian has the advantage in points by quite a lot. Um, After those 3 teams, then it's your team, then Viraj's team, and then Rachel's team. If you're curious in the race for points against, Mehtab still has the highest points against after all this. Uh, Viraj has also climbed up there, and then we talked about Brian last week, where he is high, and then your team.
Yeah, it's, things aren't looking too bright at the moment for, Scott's Tots. 1 game out, but a couple teams ahead and, unlikely to win the tiebreaker against, Brian's team. Um,
Analyzing these points against just makes me so disappointed in Team Legit Queen Stays Queen, who has had the benefit of not facing very difficult competition.
it seems like she
Uh,
gets us every year. I don't
with
understand. We
and
need
and
to call the
usually
schedule makers.
like hello. But but the flaw, I know you love points against. The flaw you will find in that is if you are like a top team or a bottom team, like by the nature of this stat, uh if you are the low scorer, well then you don't face yourself, so your points against are probably going to be higher. And if you're a high scoring team, your points against should be lower because you don't face yourself. And yet, still the third fewest points against is Rachel.
Yeah, it's I don't get it. Uh, yeah, I'm
Also, just
4th and she's
I also just shout out to Show, who has not quietly, I'd say loudly, but he has loudly gotten
nothing
to a
short.
7 game win streak. So very impressive, from 2-3 to 9-3, and now at the top spot. So I know things usually go wrong for Show by the end, but things are looking pretty optimistic. Uh, like if we put odds on it, he had to be like a, I don't know, like 80% make the playoffs percentage right now,
Yeah.
unless his team suffers any like major catastrophic injuries. So
Well, he does have Devers on his team. So maybe Devers will
Is that
not
good or is
hit
that
as many
bad?
home runs in McCovey in Oracle Park.
Wouldn't that be something where like he's actually horrible? It's not what you think. He's just awful with the Giants. And then like now the Giants want out, but he's like, I actually kind of like the West Coast, so I don't want to leave. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but yeah, so uh, we no proper IRL baseball segment this week.
No, we
We've had
did it.
enough of our yeah
We already
we
had
had
we
enough
just
Devers
changed we
talk.
just changed the order. We
Exactly,
did it first.
exactly. Yep. I just it's just funny that in MLB major trade and even in fantasy major trade. So
Yeah.
we'll see. In both respects, the timing of them is crazy. Just you mentioned it, but even for a normal trade, not something that makes your mind explode, to do it in June is surprising.
Yeah,
So
you don't see it. And
uh,
I will say I do wish more teams did it. Like if you were the Giants, I mean, A plus for them. This is exactly, you need a big bat, why wait until July 31st to make that move? Of course you go out and you make this move now. Um, you know, the longer you've got that impact player on your team, uh, the more impact they'll make. So
exactly, and the same, of course, can be said in the league. So uh, I'm eager to see if anyone else takes the brave leap. But any final words for our listeners here?
um I think I still might be in the stage of denial. Um, Hopefully I'll reach acceptance soon.
Uh, I hope. I will root for the Red Sox to not get homered off of twice by Devers every single game.
Oh,
I
here's what I hope, Will. I hope Devers plays first and third and hits
Oh.
multiple home runs into the bay. That's what I hope.
I do want to see the I do want to see the chaos of him playing a position. Uh, I don't think I'll take that. I'll take that, and I'll laugh at you guys for that because I think at least I could like be laughing with you in your like. If you laugh, it'll be like the hysterical, like the mental crisis version of a laugh,
Yeah, it's like that
and
you've
then
been up till 4 in the morning and you're studying for an exam and nothing makes sense and you're just like laughing maniacally and you've lost your sanity. That will be the laughing. It's just like bring on the chaos.
that's you said you don't want a buy sell combo. You want a direction.
Hmm.
Uh technically the direction I hope you guys get is chaos. So just like
Yeah,
every
you
move
want
makes
myself.
like every move doesn't make sense, but they're all big. It's not just like random little things. You keep Chapman actually. You don't trade him.
Yeah. Keep
Uh
keep keep Chapman. Don't re-sign Bregman. Lose him into the offseason. Don't get the comp pick. Ah,
trade San Rafaela, even though you I think you guys extended him already, but
yeah,
trade him to
that's the thing. Like if I'm the Red Sox, I am well. A they lost all their leverage with Bregman, but I'm trying to re-sign him or extend him to a more long-term deal if I can because now like he absolutely is your only third baseman. Like wouldn't that be ironic? They have too many third basemen going into this year, and then going into next year, they might not have a third baseman.
no, you trade Nolan Arenado, it'll be fine. Who has turned out not to be good, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a long-term solution.
Yeah, all the people who resisted the urge to trade for him have been proven right.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, like Paul Goldschmidt has actually been good, surprising.
That that's actually surprised me, like, not that I necessarily expected him to fall off a cliff, but I kind of envisioned him more a la DJ LeMahieu or Nolan Arenado, still, maybe serviceable, but not impact, but I think he's been pretty impact.
Yeah, he's been impact. Like I think he's been so good that even after his correction to the mean, his season stats will look like a good first baseman.
Yeah,
Like it will probably end like 270 batting average, 340 on base, like 480 slugging is probably what it'll finish
yeah,
at.
more than serviceable.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in to our uh trade chaos special edition episode. And we'll be back next week to see what else has gone.
Me
I mean,
no more.
what will have happened? I mean, we'll
No
know
more.
more.
Mercy.
The Giants season will have happened. So, we'll
Yeah.
see. But all right, everyone, thanks for listening, and until we speak again,
Chasing
ciao.
home is let the good times roll. Every swing's a chance to take control. On the road to glory, where legends are born.